Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Please like, subscribe. More importantly, become a member to the channel. $2.99 a month goes a long way. Hey, that's cheaper than going out there, man, and getting yourself some cigarettes. If you enjoy the content, why don't you puff on these videos? Now listen, Erickson Lubin gets an opportunity to get rid of those Charlo demons, to get rid of those Fundora demons when he faces off against Vergil Ortiz. And I'm going to tell you, I think Lubin has a really good chance to beat Ortiz. Ortiz is a bad boy, but I just think Lubin, with that like 76-inch reach, 77-inch reach, with the power he has, with the experiences that he's had fighting at 154 pounds, I just think right now is a great opportunity for him to get in the ring and put the bing bings on Vergil Ortiz. Now, Vergil Ortiz is a beast. You know, he's coming straight at you. He's going to break you down. If Lubin, for some reason, is trying to get cute, languish on the ropes, trying to box, trying to move, and he's not able to keep that up for the duration of the whole 36 minutes across 12 rounds, Lubin is going to lose. But I really think Lubin has a good chance to win this fight. Now, what's interesting is there's been all kind of drama with negotiations and people now trying to understand the tactical dynamics between Vergil and Lubin, but there's a Xander Zayas and Murtazaliev kind of wrapped up in all this drama, and what happened is it looks like Lubin and Murtazaliev were trying to fight. The IBF actually ordered Murtazaliev to defend his junior middleweight title against Lubin because Lubin became the mandatory, but they're trying to say Lubin walked away from the deal. No, he was there trying to make the fight happen. They couldn't reach an agreement, went to purse bid, and this is where Lubin and his team said, all right, looks like we may have an opportunity to fight Vergil Ortiz instead and for twice the amount of money. Now, I'm going to tell you, if they're going to pay Lubin twice the amount of money for Vergil Ortiz instead of making half to fight Murtazaliev, I don't know what you guys think, but the title shot is important, but I would be in favor of a more lucrative fight, and I would even say maybe less dangerous. Now, Vergil Ortiz Jr. is a beast, but that Murtazaliev, from what I've seen and you all have seen, and some people still feel the verdict is out, I would just rather fight Vergil Ortiz because, look, Bohachuk, dropped him twice. A guy like Murtazaliev looks like he'll get in there, and if you lose against him, your career is over. But, again, it comes back to just money and risk. You know, Lubin's team confirmed that he would earn two and a half times as much money fighting Ortiz than Murtazaliev. And I'm just going to tell you, when I think of Vergil Ortiz, his style, it could be a complicated matchup. But Murtazaliev is a nightmare matchup. So it's a big difference. We all saw what he did to Tim Tszyu in 3 rounds. Some people consider him the boogeyman of the division. Some people consider Vergil Ortiz the boogeyman of the division. But if you ask me, first of all, I don't want no man jumping out my closet while I'm sleeping. Right? I don't want no man in my closet or in my bedroom. But you're gonna get the joke. If there's a boogeyman, I'd rather have it be Vergil Ortiz who jumps out to scare me, not Murtazaliev, because Murtazaliev will kill you. Vergil Ortiz may knock you out, but he ain't gonna kill you. So the bottom line is Lubin, he and his team admitted that they're concerned about facing a guy like Murtazaliev and his career coming to an end. But if they lose to Ortiz, even though they think they're going to win, because of Ortiz's star power, it's like no one's giving Lubin a chance to win anyway. So if he loses, his career continues on because he just fought basically a superstar. And I kind of understand what they're saying, but now we haven't understand what happened with Lubin and Murtazaliev, but Vergil Ortiz was supposed to fight Xander Zayas. They were nearly finalized for a DAZN pay-per-view in December, but negotiations collapsed. Now, I did read where Golden Boy pushed for the fight. They pushed really hard. But they even offered a 50-50 split, which I think is more than fair. But this is the problem. Zayas, look, I know Zayas has been doing the business, but he's a newly crowned WBO champ. Being the champ gives you a lot of leverage, but let's be real. He wanted to fight in Puerto Rico. And he rejected the offer, so, things ended up falling apart, promotional issues, broadcast issues, and then the top-ranked ESPN deal just expired, so it looks like Zayas didn't really, have a leg to stand on, and, Vergil Ortiz and Golden Boy had to do something different, so Oscar De La Hoya came out here and blasted Zayas, basically saying he put duck sauce on the fried rice, or duck sauce on the quesadilla, and called the era of boxing stale, just saying, one thing about De La Hoya, he can talk this shit because he fought everybody. But he says fighters are just afraid of big matchups. And he said Zayas is one. But Zayas, he kind of battled back saying that Ortiz's offer wasn't real and that he was being misrepresented. So the bottom line, they kicked Zayas to the curb and Ortiz pivoted back to Lubin. Ortiz and Lubin, hold on one second. Ortiz and Lubin were supposed to be trying to fight in February. Was supposed to be trying to fight in February, but, things didn't work out. But the bottom line is Lubin and Ortiz now are going to fight, but it's a matter of, who has the edge? What's the real story here? Hold on a second. Sorry. But the real question is, who has the edge? I just think, when you look at guys like Lubin and what okay. Apologize, that's my son texting me, man, so I'm not going to stop the video because this is real life. Shit happens, right? And my son is the priority. But Lubin and Ortiz, who has the edge? You guys know I think that I'm just really mesmerized when it comes to some of these matchups. And this is a fight where I think either guy can lose. Most are going to favorite Vergil Ortiz. But for me, I think Lubin can get the job done. I think Lubin is vulnerable. I think Ortiz is vulnerable. But when you look at Ortiz, it's kind of hard to go against a guy who's never, I think he lost to Bohachuk. But when you look at his record, 23-0 and 21 knockouts, the guy's never lost. Look at his strengths. Relentless pressure, body punching, knockout power from round one to the last round. That means Lubin's got to be perfect for the whole 12 rounds. If not, Ortiz is going to catch up to him. So I can understand Vergil Ortiz being the betting favorite, but at the same time, Ortiz has weaknesses. It's acceptable to counters. He can be countered and dropped. We saw what happened with Bohachuk. You saw what happened with Kavaliauskas. Don't talk about Ortiz's first two fights where it's supposed to be at 154 and he didn't make the weight. Even he'll tell you he was supposed to win those fights. But the bottom line is Ortiz is a monster, but he's a monster with vulnerabilities. Now, when you get down to Erickson Lubin, hey, some people say if you lose once, you lose twice. That means you know how to lose. He has 27 wins, two losses, and 19 knockouts. Sharp jab, freakishly long reach. And he does have experience against top opposition, not just in the ring, but actually in sparring. He's given the business to a lot of fighters in his weight division, below his weight division, above his weight division. The one highlight most of you guys are going to probably know about is where he dropped Edgar Berlanga in sparring. And most of you now, after seeing Edgar Berlanga get tranquilized by Hamza Shiraz, you're probably saying, how much credit do we give Lubin for putting the bing-bings on Hamza Shiraz? On Edgar Berlanga. Well, he deserves a lot of credit. The bottom line is when you look at it, I just think his reach is going to be a factor big time. I've seen reports that it's 74 inches, 77 inches. Look, I ain't here worrying about how many inches a man has. I just know he's going to take those inches and put them all up in the mouth of Vergil Ortiz. No diddy. But the jab and lateral movement is going to be key for him, and I think he can frustrate Ortiz. It's just, will his feet be fast enough? Will his reaction time be fast enough? Does he have the quick twitch fibers to where he can move and pivot and do all the things that great fighters like Crawford and Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis and Floyd Mayweather and all the other magnificent boxer punchers have been able to do against a guy like Ortiz who's humming at you? I don't know. Because I just think when you talk about Ortiz pressure and body work, that shit is designed to break down movers. And And that's what makes this fight interesting. This is almost like a low-budget Crawford-Canelo. No disrespect to either fighter, but you guys know what I'm saying. But I will say, if Lubin slows down and get caught in the ropes, Ortiz isn't going to ease up on him. And you can see Lubin start to swell up and look a bit grotesque with contusions all over his face and head, same way Fundora did him. And whether you're a Lubin fan or not, you got to understand that he's been stopped twice. But again, I think he's learned from those. Brutal knockout by Charlo, round 1. And, I mean, just crazy. It's like when that shit happened, it was like break glass now emergency. And get people in here to help this man. When he fought Fundora, it was a war. It's kind of like Tim Tszyu went to a war with Fundora. Fundora, Lubin dropped him. He had his opportunities, but Fundora is tougher. At that point, we didn't know how tough he was, but now everybody knows Fundora is tough. He hits hard, he's strong, and nobody's underestimating Fundora now, especially now that he's fighting like a big man with an 80-something inch reach. So Fundora he is not as vulnerable as he was when he fought Lubin. But if Lubin can survive them early rounds and keep the fight at range with his jab, I see a clear path for victory for Erickson Lubin. But if Ortiz gets inside, and does what he does, starts to dig, starts to bang, starts to break him down, starts to break out all those windows in the house, it's going to be all bad for Lubin. And again, like I said, you talk about Lubin, I don't know where he got the scar tissue he has or why he swells the way he does. But man, if Ortiz is binging him, and even if Lubin is hanging in there and he starts swelling, it may stop the fight. And you can also see if Ortiz is really landing an effective and concentrated body attack that, Lubin could fatigue. So the bottom line, man, if you ask me, so hey, what's your verdict on this fight? I just think the fans win, but I will say Lubin's reach is a weapon. He's got to stay behind that, make the fight simple. Just win. Against Ortiz, don't try and knock him out. Just win. And if the opportunity presents itself, put the bings on him. But the reach, I think, is key. The jab is key. It's a weapon, but it's only an effective weapon if paired with discipline and movement. I just don't know if he can be so focused on throwing the jab, being defensively aware, and then moving. That's a lot to ask a fighter to do. The elite, the special ones can do it, especially against a guy like Ortiz, whose pressure is a weapon. But again, his pressure can only be effective if he's able to cut off the ring and avoid walking into counters, which Lubin's going to try to set him up for. So I just think the fight's going to come down to who can control the pace, but really who can absorb the most damage. And if you ask me, I think Ortiz absorbs the most damage. Lubin controls the pace, or Ortiz can absorb the most damage. And when you get into the later rounds, I think it's only right to favor Ortiz. But Lubin has the tools to pull off the upset, especially if Ortiz is just rushing in and underestimating Lubin's timing, counterpunching ability, and that jab. Anyway, keep cool. Another great fight on the horizon. I really can't wait to see how this goes, because Ortiz, on paper, and if you go by the majority of fans, he's supposed to win this fight. But I am telling you, Lubin is a live underdog in this fight. Lubin can beat Ortiz. Bohachuk kind of showed us the way to go about doing it, but Bohachuk can throw goddamn 70, 80, 100 punches around. I don't know if Lubin can do that, but he doesn't have to. If his timing is on point, if he has stamina, if he has a lot of movement, and he can land a high percentage of his jabs, then he will freeze Ortiz. Ortiz will become stationary. He will start to have some doubt, and he'll be reluctant to let his hands go or come in because he's getting binged. Anyway, damn good fight. Keep cool, I'm in the breeze.